As we all know, there are no woke things in God of War Ragnarok, or at least the whole commentary community would have me believe. There is no woke in my slop, and I would be paranoid to assume otherwise. Am I right, ladies and gentlemen? But I seem to recall some YouTubers who had the audacity to notice things. People like Synthetic Man, who pointed out there was wokeness in God of War Ragnarok. More like God of War Ragnarok. Well, let us take a look at the game and try to figure out what exactly this woke stuff is all about. And here we see a young black girl. This is a new character introduced to the game named Angrboda. Obviously, nothing is wrong with this. After all, black people were everywhere in 5th century Scandinavia. And we're also aware that at least 13% of the Norse gods were black. It's just common knowledge. Only a racist or a bigot would think otherwise. Also, the game features a variety of mythological creatures and other outlandish nonsense. Why are people negging on this young black girl? Now, I am incredibly autistic and have no capacity to think for myself at times like this. So, naturally, I must reach out to YouTube's commentary community and have some of the most popular people on YouTube do my thinking for me.
The only thing I could possibly come up with that people might take issue with is Angrboda, who looks a bit out of place in a story that's all about Norse mythology, but in the context of interdimensional realm travel, wildly exotic landscapes, cultures, different races, and even species, a few characters with different skin tones is probably the least unusual thing you're gonna see.
Well, there you have it. Elves, trolls, black people, they all pretty much fit under the same category of weird shit in my Norse mythology video game.
And it's not like she's even used to make some awkward point about contemporary social issues. She's just a character who's there to fill you in on some backstory, and that's pretty much it. I guess my point here is that while it's important to call out divisive identity politics in media, it doesn't mean that it exists everywhere. And if you start trying to find it where it doesn't really exist, it just becomes a witch hunt that spoils your enjoyment of stuff you might otherwise end up loving. Sometimes it's okay to acknowledge that even modern productions can just be, well, good.
You know, it's hard to believe this was what people were saying not too long ago. And then, all of a sudden, everyone was like, well, damn, I'm on the wrong side of history. Better hope my stupid viewers aren't aware my faux pas by crapping on the company who was involved in the game I praised only a few years back. And by the way, this isn't even a question as to whether or not Angrboda should even be a white person, since she is supposed to be a Jotun, which is basically the equivalent of a giant or a troll. She probably shouldn't even look like a human. Now, maybe you're wondering, what's the big deal? Why does anyone care about whether or not this character is a black girl? Why would anyone point at this and say, this character is woke? Well, rather than refer to the incredibly useful commentary community on YouTube, I'm going to refer to the mouth of the horse. That is to say, I will go to the horse's mouth. Specifically, the CEO of Sweet Baby herself. Maybe she will tell me exactly what they are doing. Now, I read an article from GamesIndustry.biz concerning Angrboda, quoting Kim Belair on several occasions. Here is an excerpt. For God of War Ragnarok, Sweet Baby specifically worked on making Angrboda, depicted as a black character, more relatable to black audiences despite the game's Norse mythology setting. As a supporting character, there had been concerns that it would feel like Angrboda's purpose didn't matter in the grand scheme of the narrative. But rather than shy away from this, Belair says the solution was to make it, quote, more diegetic.
One of the things that we all face in our lives as marginalized people is the sense of, am I just a facet of someone else's existence? For me, looking at a black character in a game where she feels that same way, it will absolutely be seen and resonated with by people of color and by black girls who identify with Angrboda. So many places are afraid to even make a commentary on things because of some fear that mentioning something is bad, but not mentioning something is more uncomfortable.
Again, this is forced inclusion and forced representation. People weren't mistaken when they said Angrboda was obviously part of some wild woke virtue signaling subversion, straight from the mouth of a horse. Or what I meant to say was from the horse's mouth. Now, why would I need some YouTube commentary community breaking this down for me when the good people at Sweet Baby are basically telling me how it is, all by themselves? This is all pretty much laid out in black and white, no pun intended. The video games industry are doing woke messaging. The games are indeed full of woke. This is happening. It cannot be denied. And to think, 2 years ago, the mainstream opinion was, This isn't happening. Stop it with your anti-woke paranoia.
It's not like she's even used to make some awkward point about contemporary social issues. While it's important to call out divisive identity politics in media, it doesn't mean that it exists everywhere. And if you start trying to find it where it doesn't really exist, it just becomes a witch hunt that spoils your enjoyment of stuff you might otherwise end up loving.
Now, in 2024, seemingly everyone is now on the other side of the fence. The whole damn online commentary community have egg on their faces, sticky yolk dribbling all over the place. But, as we can clearly see and hear, Kim Belair, the CEO of Sweet Baby herself, is absolutely acknowledging that Angrboda truly is an anomalous addition to God of War Ragnarok. It was all a ploy so that Kim could look at a character and see herself, and then force other people to look at a character that looked like her. Very much like what happened with Spider-Man 2. What's the deal with all these people just creating or editing characters to make them look like themselves?